Hello again, and welcome once again back to another edition of the Fantasy Football Consistency Show. As always, I'm Bob Lung from Big Guy Fantasy Sports, as you see the name above. And also to my right here is Mr. Ron Rigney, who's back again. He's been back for a couple of weeks. Excited to always have you on here. We haven't had Colby share for a while, but always good. And as your question says, which LA running back did you get out there, folks? Because in our Kings Classic leagues, we saw people bringing out people. I think they were pulling them out of the stands. Like as soon as they got signed, they were signing them. That's how bad it is in the Kings Classic. I know John Hansen talks about his 14-team skank league. He hasn't seen nothing. He needs to be in this league if he wants to know what a skank league's all about. I'm starting Braxton Berrios in one of my leagues. So, Ron, how's it going, man?
I mean, other than what you talked about in that league with having those three flexes, man, then skank is probably the defining term there. And I think that, I was seeing these alerts pop up of all these these Rams. And I think I texted you guys, you and Colby, saying how I think that some people signed every Rams practice squad running back. They signed anybody that the Rams reach out to their agent. There were so many people flying off the board because like we were talking about so many teams on bye this week. You got the Kyron Williams injury. So that's kind of why we're talking about Rams running backs. So I was lucky to get Zach Evans in a couple. From what I've been hearing, what I've been seeing, it looks like Zach Evans is kind of the closest to the style of Kyron Williams. So rookie as well. So not a lot of mileage on him just yet. So I was able to get him in these deeper Kings Classic leagues. I'm got my fingers crossed for a Royce Freeman take one to the house on third down and maybe get me at least 10 points, if not a little bit more. So we'll see what happens. But my snake team, decent shot at winning, not too many buys, but boy, that auction team, I got some hard decisions to make tonight. I don't know what I'm even going to start in that one.
Yeah.
It's ugly out there. And we got a couple ugly ones too coming up. Pay attention to those bye weeks, kids.
Yeah, right. Yeah, as we were discussing, week 10, folks, there's only 4 teams on a bye, not 6 like this week. But those 4 teams are the Chiefs, the Rams, the Dolphins, and the Eagles. So we're warning you now. Be prepared. That could get an ugly week.
Especially every top quarterback.
Your team's built around those, which if you are, your team is doing well if you have mostly those players from those teams right now. But yeah, that's going to get ugly in week 10. Week 13 is the last or the 6 teams. But the teams aren't as big of a deal, like Giants, Patriots, those kind of teams, Vegas, those kind of stuff. But anyway, we are here, of course, to talk about consistency as you know, hence the name of the show, Fantasy Football Consistency Show. Of course, every week we kind of pre-review week 6, year-to-date stats, where the teams are, where the players are more than anything from a consistency standpoint. Then we kind of highlight a player or two that we feel like, is kind of coming on from a consistency standpoint and might even have a really good matchup this week as well. So as we take a look at the quarterback position, folks, there is one quarterback who's still 100% perfect. Now he's only played 5 out of 5. He did have a bye week, and that is one Justin Herbert. Interestingly enough, though he's 5 for 5, still 8th in total points. Granted, one last week, but he's just been what we hoped he'd be, and what I hoped he'd be because I have him on a lot of my teams, folks. Just being that consistent, 20 to 25 points a week, I'm good with that. Doesn't have to set the world on fire every week because when you do that, sometimes you come back with a clunker the next week, as you've seen from some of these guys. At the 83%, we still have Jalen Hurts, Tua, Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, and Sam Howell, which we talked about last week. Came back with another clutch game. He is right up there. Now he's 13th in total points, but he's getting it done with that week-to-week consistency. So like myself, if you have him or you don't have him, if you have him, look at trading him. Like I picked him up for that 1 week with Herbert going on a bye. He filled in, did great. Now I'm trading him off for another person that I might be able to use in these bye weeks in the flex spot. So definitely keep an eye on them. And then also at 80% is Jordan Love, who I'm going to talk about a little bit. But right now I'm going to turn it back over to Rod, who's got somebody he'd like to talk about.
Yeah, and I started Sam Howell in that same week that you did, and we both reaped the benefits from that one. And that's a guy actually I think I'm going to roll with in one of my leagues over Trevor Lawrence tonight. I don't know about that knee. I don't know about that Thursday night game, that short week of rest. I don't know about that Saints defense. So Sam Howell's the guy I'm hanging on to because I got to start him out of necessity. But the guy that I want to talk about, and it's a guy that, you got to scroll down a little bit when you're looking at him in terms of total points. He's all the way down there at number 20 in total points. And it's a guy that is 60% consistent, 3 for 5, and that's Baker Mayfield. And kind of like Sam Howell, you probably didn't draft Baker Mayfield, or if you did, it was a 2 QB league that was kind of deep. But he's been a lot better than I think a lot of people expected. He's not blown the doors off as far as, getting you QB1 type numbers. But for a guy that, if you got to mix and match, if you've got injuries, if you've got bye weeks, like we've got so many guys this week, he's got an okay matchup against the Falcons, kind of middle of the road in fantasy points allowed to QBs. But he's had a couple of nice games. He's thrown a touchdown in at least all games except last week, of course. Had the one pick against Detroit, only went a little bit over 200 yards. But week before, 3 touchdowns. And against Philly, had kind of a down game there, but went for 300 against that Chicago defense. So I think another serviceable game coming up. I'm expecting maybe 225 through the air, maybe a couple touchdowns. Hope Mike Williams is fully healthy, but Chris Godwin has looked like his favorite target there. Been getting the tight ends a little bit involved, and they're going to have to throw because we were talking about this off air too. Talking about it earlier, that Bucs run offense, that line is not great. So that's the only thing I don't like about that is Baker's got to get rid of the ball pretty quick, and they're not running it very consistently. But I feel like there's enough there for against the Falcons. That defense is getting a little better, but tough matchup next week against Buffalo. Then he's got Tennessee coming up over the horizon. So he's got a couple matchups that are a little more favorable after that Buffalo matchup. But this week, I would say, like I said, expect maybe 225, maybe a couple touchdowns, maybe 1 pick. So should be right there, I think, on that cusp of a clutch game, just a little bit over.
Yeah, no, great pick. Like you said, he's been good enough. And right now, healthy and good enough is pretty good in this world in fantasy football. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk about Jordan Love. Actually, before the past 2 weeks, of course, he missed his first clutch game in week 5. Last week was on a bye, but he's 4 for 5 for the year, 80%. This week, guess what? He gets the wonderful Denver Broncos, who is, of course, dead last in almost every one of these categories, but they're definitely dead last in giving up points against the quarterback, 32nd. Jordan Love should be a great pick this week. Get him in there, especially if you're struggling when you're losing one of the buys, quarterbacks this week. Definitely plug him in. He's got a really great matchup, like you said, and he's just been consistent. Again, he's 17th in total points because again he missed. He's 4 for 5 due to the bye week last week, but still. He's been good enough, right? And as we just said, healthy and good enough, 80% consistency, something that's not too disappointing. So Sam Howell's, Jordan Love's of the world, Baker Mayfield's coming up there as well. That's not bad. I mean, and you hate to say that, and you don't want to. You want to be optimistic, and it's all everybody talks about. The ceilings and the that kind of stuff. Let's go with the floors. Let's go with the consistency, clutch factor. Get over that 19 to 20 points. That's what we're all about. So, Ron, your thoughts on Jordan Love before we head into the running back position?
Like you said, he's going to have to do – I'd like to see him do a little bit more with his legs, wide receiver core. As long as, Dobbs and Christian Watson are healthy, I like both of them. Big Christian Watson guy. The key is going to be getting Aaron Jones back healthy because he's going to have to lean on Aaron Jones. We've seen A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon has been dropped in a lot of leagues, and I am in probably the same with you. He's not really even rosterable. But I'd like to see Aaron Jones get healthy and like to see those tight ends get a little bit more involved as well. But overall, pretty solid matchup coming up this week.
Yep. All right, let's head to the running back position, and we've got very few 100%ers left. Christian McCaffrey barely made it last week, had a rough game against the Browns, was injured, struggling to see whether he's going to be 100% for this week. Might be playing at 80%. Let's be honest, that's still better than most. Bijan Robinson, 8th in total points. If you draft him in the first round, congratulations. He's doing very well for you. Kenneth Walker, maybe the surprise of the bunch at 5 for 5. He had a bye week in week 5. Also at 100% is Austin Eckler and Alvin Kamara at 3 and 3 and 2 for 2. 83%, Raheem Mostert, Travis Etienne, DeAndre Swift, Josh Jacobs, and Alexander Madison. This is the one that we talk about all the time, and we're not going to highlight him this week, but every week it's you read, oh, he's, this is the week he's going to fall. This is the week he's going to be down this week, but there he is. He's right there in the mix of things. 17th in total points. Again, not cranking out 20 points a week or 15 points a week. He's getting the 10 to 12, which is good enough, and he's right there with it. At 80%, Zach Moss and David Montgomery, who of course is out. Let's talk about that top group. Surprises to you, and who do you have this week for your pick for the running back position?
Not a ton of surprises up there. Of course, I think you got to say Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams, a guy that I liked, coming out of Notre Dame, being a fifth-round pick, but I didn't think that he would be up in this top tier of running back. So where I do have him, very lucky that I got him when I did. But not a lot of surprises here at the top. But the guys that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to go a little different route. I'm going to give you a two for here, a couple quick hitters, a couple guys that. And that one, you've probably already got him on your IR. Another guy that if you're going to get him, I think this is kind of the last-ditch effort to get him. First guy I'm going to talk about is Jamal Williams. Just saw Jamal Williams was upgraded to active. So if you have him, he's going to be in the lineup tonight against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's been tough on defense. We know that, but short week of rest. I think Jamal Williams with Alvin Kamara there gets most of the not most, but all of the goal line work as long as he is healthy. So nice chance for a few touchdowns there. We saw what he did with the touchdowns last year in Detroit. Even though he is 0 for 2 as far as clutch games, I think he'll get enough that if you need him in one of those deep flex spots, he's going to get enough as far as goal line work for get you those touchdowns. Second guy I'm going to go with, Jeff Williams Jr. Devin Achane still out a few more weeks. We've seen Raheem Mostert, and I hate to say it, but it feels like it's only a matter of time before he gets a little bit nicked up with the way they've been using those running backs, but it's like they can plug anybody in and they're going to be solid. And I think Jeff Wilson Jr., his practice window is open. I don't know that he's going to be activated for this week, but I think if you're going to add him, you want to get as much of that Dolphins offense as you can get. And the only guys like you were talking about that you're going to get that you don't already have are the guys like Braxton Berrios. And so I would definitely want to try to get Jeff Wilson Jr. if he's available, because I feel like week 8 is going to be that week where we actually see him in the lineup and see him getting some meaningful touches.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And like you said, Mostert, I mean, trust me, there's nobody more scared of this Mostert scenario than I am, because again, I'm rolling 6-0 in the Kings Classic Auction League. Mostert is just outside of the Holy Trinity, who now is either hurt or on a bye week, have also been helping. But Mostert last week basically won the week for me. I mean, his 35 points was just off the charts. And I keep thinking, man, should I trade him before he gets hurt? But
and how much did you pay for him in the auction league?
$4, maybe.
$4 for the number 2 overall running back after week 6. I think that's
why we love auctions, kids. But yeah, it scares me every week. Like, I just keep waiting for that pop up, and I'm hoping it doesn't come, or at least not till week 17 when or 18 when the whole thing's over. Anyway. This is a guy that everybody has. I'm not going to question that. So it's Isaiah Pacheco. But I think what may surprise people is that he's been quietly consistent. He's 12th in total points. He's 67% consistent, which actually after the first 2 games in which he didn't earn any, he now is 4 straight. He's definitely the man. CEH, Jared McKinnon, they're just only when Pacheco's tired. Pacheco's getting catches out of the backfield. He's getting the running game. He is the man on that team. Most people, again, he's on everybody's roster. He's on somebody's roster in everybody's league. I get it. But, he might not be, he might be somebody worth trading for. Like if, maybe you've got an Adam Thielen who's ripping it up and some guy needs a run, wide receiver, could be a good running back to give back. So, just wanted to highlight that he was 12th in total points, 67% consistent. He's right there with Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, this kind of guys who are, having a very solid year at 10th and 13th in total points. Pacheco is right there with him. So, Ron, your thoughts on Pacheco? I don't have him in any league. I was kind of like, still wasn't sure if he was the man. But yeah.
And same with me. It just seems like there's certain players, no matter where the draft kind of fell, they just didn't fall to me where I felt good about getting them. And Pacheco was another one that just didn't get to me where I felt like it was a good enough value to pull the trigger on it. So I don't have a lot of shares of him either. But I mean, we know that Chiefs offense. We know Andy Reid is creative, and we know he's got to get it in the hands of playmakers like that, because there's not a lot on those outsides. And especially if Travis Kelce is nicked up, which we've kind of seen a little bit this year, although it hasn't slowed him down a whole lot most weeks. I think Pacheco's got to get involved. Patrick Mahomes has to get him the ball in space in order for them to succeed, because that offense is kind of looking for playmakers right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. And yeah, but hey, they traded for McCole Hardman. All is well. Everything's good. Get him in there. Of course, he's not available in any of our King Classic teams.
No, nope.
Like, really, McCole Hardman? I'm sure he was snagged as soon as he was announced. But anyway, all right. Speaking of wide receivers, let's go to the wide receiver position, and we have still a few 100%ers up there. Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DK Metcalf. That was the one that surprised me, especially since he's 36th in total points, and yet still is just squeaking by 5-5 with the clutch games due to, of course, the fact that he's had a bye. But yeah, it's just amazing to me that he's just, like I said, he's just getting by. I mean, if you divide 67 by 12 by 5, you're about 12, 14 points. So he's getting that every week, and that's all he's getting, but it's good enough. Keeping it worth it. 83%. A lot of folks there. I'll just run them off real quick. Adam Thielen, Puka Nacua, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Pittman, Christian Kirk, Zay Flowers, Cortland Sutton, by many surprise, and Jordan Addison. So, Ron, this group includes one of the guys you're going to talk about, but Adam Thielen is the one that jumps out to me. Metcalf is the one that jumps out to me. Pittman, I felt like he could have a good year, but we just didn't know what the quarterback situation was. Christian Kirk is now ahead of Calvin Ridley. That may be a bigger surprise.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it a little bit last week too. I think I went with Calvin or Tyree or not Tyreek Hill, Christian Kirk in our cash lineup over Ridley, and that ended up working out for us. But Adam Thielen is a huge surprise. But I mean, I want to point out something real quick before I talk about my guy, Tyreek Hill. I mean, I know that it's no surprise he's at the top there. He's first in total points. But Tyreek Hill, after 6 weeks, is sitting here with 42 grabs for 814 yards after 6 weeks. Okay, so he's almost at 1,000 yards, and we're not even at the halfway point yet. So he may very well get that 2,000 yards that he set out to get as long as he can stay healthy. Dude's just absolute freak show, fun to watch. But the guy I want to go with is another guy that I'm really glad to see that he's kind of broke out a little bit, and that's Michael Pittman for my Colts. We've seen him every week except 2 get double-digit targets. Now, the problem with the Colts is I don't watch them a lot, but I'm able to listen to them a lot. For some reason, when they get in that red zone, when they get on their opponent's other side of the field, it's hard for them to put the ball in the end zone. They've only scored 30-plus points in one game this year. Every other game, they've been anywhere from 20 to 23. They haven't been able to get past 23 points. So not a high-octane offense, but an offense that's going to have to throw a lot. See Gardner Minshew in there. I think Gardner Minshew spreads the ball around a little bit. If you're a Pittman owner, you benefit when Anthony Richardson is in there because he looks at him nonstop trying to get him the ball, which is great for you. But the problem is he only has 1 touchdown on the year. So like to see him get a few more looks in that red zone. Let's see that offense drive it all the way down, punch it in. It's like they'll get a turnover, on a goal line stand, and they'll go 80 yards and they get a field goal out of it. They do that way too much. But Pittman has, and even in the games that he didn't get double-digit targets, 5 and 7 targets. So if you can call those down games as far as targets, but yardage has been there, catches have been there. Just like to see him get a few more touchdowns, but it's cool to see him at 15th in total points and only missing 1 clutch game on a year.
Yeah, no, definitely one of my favorite players. He, like I said, he was kind of all over the place because of the unsurety of Minshew versus Richardson, what that meant. And so you could get him at a pretty good value in most drafts this year. Got him in a few leagues. So, yeah, he's been doing very well, been very consistent, which is what we want. The guy that it's actually many people may not realize has been decently consistent is Drake London. And I know, folks, you're out there going, Drake London stinks. Look at him. He's 70. He's 30th in total points. He's supposed to be an RB, wide receiver too. And he was supposed to be so good and so great. Well, Desmond Ritter's still there. That's part of the problem. Also the fact that they love to run the ball and they love to throw to Jonnu Smith and nobody else. But 4 out of his last 5. So he's 4 for 6 for the year, but 4 of his last 5 in clutch games. He's really has been, again, he's just getting those, 10 to 12, nothing fantastic. But again, if you're looking for somebody maybe to trade for that might be people are down on. Like, I expected more. I wanted more. They're very disappointed with Drake London. Might be a guy to trade for. I think as the year goes on, we'll see Ritter get more and more comfortable, more and more targets to London. He's definitely a stud player. They just need the quarterback to get it to him. So take a look at that. Also, they're playing Seattle this week, who's dead last and giving up fantasy points to the wide receiver position. Ron, your thoughts on Drake and before we head into the tight end position?
Got you. Love the Drake. If you're a Seinfeld fan, you know what I'm talking about there. But every week, guy's gotten at least 6 targets. He's got that one week, one game where he had 1 target and didn't have a stat.
Yeah.
But coming off a week where he had 12 targets, 9 grabs for 125, kind of his best game of the season by far against Washington. Love that matchup against Seattle again. And it's not a question of Drake London's talent. It's a question of, is Desmond Ritter the guy that can get him the ball? I've seen some rumblings this week about Desmond Ritter maybe a couple more weeks and he may be getting benched. I don't even know who the backup is in Atlanta. But we've seen Desmond Ritter not look all that impressive. And like you said, for whatever reason, there's that obsession with Jonnu Smith. But it kind of looks like, we've seen Kyle Pitts post a clutch game in the last few weeks. We've seen Drake London post a couple of them. And Drake London's a guy, like my wife, for example, in her 10-team league, Drake London was our wide receiver 5, I think. So right. I feel like even in more shallow leagues, you got him as that low-end wide receiver 3, that flex. He's been a pretty solid option for you in most spots, most weeks. There's, like I said, a couple clunkers in there, but the last couple weeks he's come on against Houston, who's surprisingly tough on defense, and then against Washington last week, like I said, 9 for $125. You got to love that.
Yeah, definitely got to love that. All right, we head to our world-famous tight end position, and it's so funny when I asked Ron who he wanted to talk about, he said nobody. There's nobody worth talking about, and he's pretty close. Travis Kelce's the only thing that does get talked about, and actually it's more Taylor Swift than him anyway. So interestingly enough, of course, Mr. Kelce is right at the top of the list because he had the first week that he didn't play, but he's a 5 for 5 since he's been back. No surprise. The biggest surprises are the next 4. Sam Laporta, big surprise. Hawkinson, not so much. Evan Ingram, maybe not so much. And Jonnu Smith at 83%. He's 8th in total points. Yes, you heard that right. Mark Andrews at 80, and then we go 67% and down from there. So as usual, a few at the top. Some are making their way up, Dallas Goedert and those kind of folks. But Ron, you wanted to talk about a tight end who had his first big week, was highly touted during the NFL draft as a rookie, but really hadn't done much since he came on, in these first 5 or 6 weeks. But all of a sudden, he got noticed by not only the fantasy industry, but more importantly, his quarterback, who may not play this week. So that's fun. That's fun. Well, why don't you talk about your guy this week?
And that could benefit him depending on – I haven't seen who that they're going to go with yet. They got Brian Hoyer there. Aiden O'Connell started the last game, so I'm hoping that this results in some checkdowns to my guy here, and that's Michael Mayer, Notre Dame Fighting Irish tight end, guy that was at the top of the tight end list, one of those 3 or 4 guys that just super good athlete, big guy, can block, fun to watch at Notre Dame play last couple seasons there. Last couple weeks, it looks like they tried to get Michael Mayer involved. I know a couple weeks ago against Green Bay, that was a primetime game, and they came out looking for him right off the bat, and then they kind of got away from it. Had 2 for 39. Last week, though, against New England, 5 for 75 off of 6 targets. And so those first maybe 4 weeks, didn't even know the guy. The guy was missing. He was on a milk carton somewhere, and all of a sudden, 3 targets a couple weeks ago, 6 last week. So I'm hoping that, with whoever's in there, guy's a big physical athlete. I'm hoping these NFL level coaches that the Raiders have that are Josh McDaniels smart enough on offense to get this guy involved because they need him. They've got Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers has looked good, but he'd give them a solid third weapon. So I think that's a guy that, we're kind of struggling for guys to find here at tight end, but got a clutch game last week. And I think it's a guy that you're going to see steadily kind of climb up. Kind of like I said with Darren Waller last week. It's kind of neat for these offensive coordinators to kind of figure out, okay, we've got these talented guys. We got to figure out how to get them the ball. And lo and behold, they did that 5 times last week and it paid off.
Yeah, no, and he looked good doing it. He's a big guy. I mean, I saw someone play. I'm like, this guy is huge.
Yeah.
Why is he not getting the ball more? But yeah, interesting stuff. My tight end this week, 22nd in total points. 2 out of his last 3 games, clutch games. Has had one game where he played like 3 plays and got hurt. Of course, that was the game that I took the over at 23.5 receiving yards, and that's Luke Musgrave. As I mentioned earlier, they played Denver this week, who surprisingly is dead last against tight ends, 32nd. They're playing in Denver. So I think that, barring any weather conditions, which I think Denver's fine at this point, it's not snowing season yet, but it's going to get there real soon. But definitely a good spot this week for him. He kind of came on, like I said, last week, got another clutch game, or I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago, got a clutch game by last week. So everybody's rested in Green Bay. They're coming out hoping Aaron Jones will play some, but like Musgrave a lot in this game. So definitely get him in or pick him up if he's available out there on the waiver wire. Again, he's 22nd total points. Somebody may have dropped him because he might have been fed up with his lack of consistency and the fact that he had a bye week, but he's coming back. I think, as you said with Michael Mayer, he's going to continue to be more and more part of this offense. Very talented young man in Luke Musgrave. So your thoughts on the Musgraver there?
Like we said before, when you talked about Jordan Love, they need these guys to come on, and there's a couple of nice receivers there, but there's not a lot behind those first two guys. So, and we know how no matter who it is in Green Bay, love to throw to those tight ends, and they love to make kind of like some of those Colts teams in the 90s and 2000s. They like to make household names out of these common guys, and it seems like Green Bay has done that with tight ends for years. So maybe he might be the next guy. Who knows?
Yeah, no, that's for sure. All right, well, Ron, tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter and at Big Guy Fantasy Sports this week, both podcast-wise and various stuff like that.
At Ron Rigney on the X Machine, going to be off the grid a little bit this weekend, so you guys are going to have to step up for me on those clutch games with the consistently cashing this week. And as always, check out everything we've got going on, the prop bets, the consistently cash, and all the articles daily. And I realized last week after we got off the air, I forgot to do the random football card of the week, so I got a bonus. We got two. Starting off with the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, we got a Gem Mint 10 Gardner Minshew rookie card here. Looks nice and shiny and pretty. And then we're going to go with a random card of the week. Colts and NFL legend Jeff George, #1 draft pick, rookie card, graded 9, baby. I think I got the graded version of this for about $2 on eBay, and I could not be more excited. So a little Jeff George there for you.
Jeff George played for like every team out there. I think he even played for the Browns, I feel like, didn't he?
It's very possible. I know he was a Falcon. I know he was obviously a Colt. He was, I think, a Raven, a Raider, you name it.
Falcons, Raiders. I swear he played for the Browns for like
I think he played for the Vikings at one point.
Yeah, he was everywhere. Great porn mustache, too, if I remember right.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
All right. As always, you can find me at Bob_Lung on the Twitter machine. This week, of course, consistently cashing. I will be there filling in. I'm hoping that I have the same effect as I did when I filled in for Colby 2 weeks ago, and we won some big bucks. So I'm hoping we can bring that this week. Prop bets still down a little bit. Just not there. Just there's some weird stuff going on. But as you saw from all the losses this week to all the top teams, there was some stuff going on in the background. We're not sure what, but a lot of weird stuff. So maybe we'll get back in the flow this week. Find some good solid ones to click in with. So follow us on that. Of course, as Ron said, all the great stuff. Everybody, James Knight, Robbie, Prue, I can't remember his name, Steven, and Dan Turner, the 1 Week Wonders. I don't know if you've watched, if you've been reading the 1 Week Wonders one, the thing is amazing because it's like every week we're tracking 4 of the 1 Week Wonders at the positions to see how consistent they stay after. And of course, it's going almost exactly as we thought. Most of them, maybe 1 or 2 of them, like Kyron Williams, and some of those have held their own. But now, that's injury too. But most of them, one big week, just gone. Like they just every week, they just have that one there. It's everything I thought it would be and more. So I can't wait as we keep going farther and farther out. But good stuff there as well. So for Ron Rigney, I'm Bob Lung. Everybody have a great week. Ron, have a safe trip on your little cruise there, and everybody will see you next week. Take care. God bless.